It's January the 1st, one of the most exciting days of the year because ta-da, it's time to start a new planner. I do love a new planner. I spend weeks and weeks researching what I want for the particular year. I love getting a nice, pretty planner, and they're great. They're just wonderful, but only for a year. After the year, they've served their purpose. So, what can we do then? I have a stack of beautiful books, beautiful planners, and I want to try and repurpose them. Last year, we turned some into some art journals, and we're going to do the same again this year. So, let's give our old and loved, pre loved planners a new lease of life, and by turning them into an art journal.
Today we are creating art in 4 different types of planners. In the first 3, we are just showing that you can just use the planner as is, slap a bit of paint or gesso on and get going. And in the 4th one, I've been a little bit extra, but I've made an entire mixed media journal from it, and I adore it. It is gorgeous, so it's well worth staying tuned for that. But we are starting off with this little Santoro diary, and oh my goodness, I hadn't realised this until I actually started arting on it, but this is from 2012, and 2012 was actually when my daughter was born. So when I was flicking through it, there was all sorts of things, you know, like maternity appointments, obviously the day she was born's noted in there. And then I just thought, oh, how nice is it now that a year that was so special to me is now going to be kind of kept forever, because this is going to be an art journal, a place where I slow down, relax, a place where I create gorgeous things, and hopefully will be something that will be preserved. And I just think that is so lovely. And it's an element of turning planners into art journals that I hadn't really considered before, but it's also a way of kind of encapsulating those memories into art, which I think is really lovely. And I'm really, really excited now about kind of creating a little bit more in this tiny planner. I kept it really simple for the cover. I just slapped a load of gesso on until we couldn't see the background anymore. I created little features, diamond features with a stencil and an acrylic marker, and then I've used one of my toppers from the Curious Wonders collection, which we've cut into to create a little feature. This is our Hattie. Hattie was the very first character that I brought out as a stamp, so she has a close place in my heart too. And then we've just finished it off with a little sentiment. These sentiments are from our lovely Dawn, Shiny Silver Treasures, and it just says, life is too short not to be creative. When we start working on the inside, it is good to stick about 3 pages together. I'm using gel medium to stick my pages together, but basically whatever glue you have to hand. The reason we do this is because these pages are diary pages. They were never intended to be abused with paints and water and goodness knows whatever we're going to throw at it throughout our art process. So they are just a little bit flimsy and need a little bit of help, which is why I end up sticking 3 bits together. What I've done here is I've just gone into my bit box and grabbed a few different scraps. We have a little bit of book page here. We have these circles that I had made. These were actually for the workshop that we did in March of last year. No, it wasn't March, it was September. In September of last year. I'm getting myself confused. And those were a few left over, so I've stuck those in. The contrast between those little circles and the background just wasn't really working for me. So I bring out some nice bright colours in my acrylic gouache from Liquitex, and I'm just smooshing that all over the page with my finger. And yeah, having a lovely time. I don't know what it is about painting with your fingers. It just feels most lovely. And then I'm taking the excess off my fingers and putting them into my Sidekick journal. We're going to see that in a little bit more in just a moment. I decided this has become overly green, so I just ended up adding a bit of extra pink, so we had a little bit more variation in colour. And then I pulled out that same stencil that we had on the front, but this time I have filled it in with black. You don't need a stencil for this. If you're confident drawing little diamonds, you can just do that freehand, especially as I end up doing like a messy border around it with white, but I do think that really helps it to pop and it looks most lush once I had done that. Again, I found some images in my bit box, and I found this little bottle. This is from the Monster Mania collection, but in this instance, I thought it would be, I was thinking creative juice. Don't ask me why. But yeah, that's what I was thinking. I was thinking creative juice in the first page of an art journal, and you know, it's where we're going to get our creative juices flowing. My head's a strange place, but let's just go with it. So I grounded it. I sort of created something for the bottle to sit on because I don't like things floating. I just think they look weird. So I do like everything to be grounded. And then obviously I didn't have the sentiment creative juice in any of my sentiment packs, so I just wrote it out, and I did it in a messy writing so that it kind of almost looked like a font. I'm not very good at fonts, but you know, we tried our best, and it's okay because it's an art journal and it's something that's personal, and actually it'd be quite nice to have your own handwriting in a journal. I'm all for that. I do end up adding a little bit of shadowing. I was a bit lazy and just sort of scribbled it down with my acrylic marker and then pulled it out, and it actually worked fine. It was a little bit dark once I'd done that. I did need it, but it was a bit dark, so I then added these white dots just to make it pop. And actually having the black and the white really helps the colours pop. So that's the pages in our first little journal. This is my perfectly planned journal from 2022. We altered this last year, and I've done a few pages in it throughout 2025. So again, we'll maybe do another page in this today. This has had the treatment already that 3 pages have been stuck together because I did the page on the reverse. And now I again have gone into my bit box and I have just got some scraps and I am just sticking them onto the page. At this point in time, I have absolutely no idea what I'm doing. This tends to be part of my process. I very rarely have a clear idea in my mind before I start. I just sort of start, and then the page takes me where it wants to go. That might sound a bit woo-woo and strange. Sorry, that squeak was my chair. It might sound a bit woo-woo and strange, but it works. It works for me. I find this is very much warm-up stage for me. So a bit like, you know, some people that sketch, they draw a whole load of circles, but cross-hatching before they actually start to draw. When you think of sports people, they warm up before they do their main activity. So for me, this is a little bit of warm up, a little bit of like, you know, getting the creative muscles going. And I just sort of, you know, stick paper down, splosh paint about, and that works for me. So once I kind of, again, bring out the acrylic gouache, I think this might be a new favourite, and I might have just bought myself some lovely acrylic gouache, which you can see next week. This is the Sidekick journal again. So basically, if you are interested in completely no pressure art journaling, that might very well be for you. I do have a video on it and it's worth checking out. But basically, you don't ever try and create a page from beginning to end. You just sort of play in it on random different pages, and eventually the pages sort of come together themselves. It's been a revelation. I've thoroughly enjoyed my Sidekick journal last year. So that was me just kind of using it as I do. I quite often use it to mop up extra supplies. Once I had pulled out this little dolphin, again, she came from my bit box and I thought it worked well with the blues and greens, and I decided to bring out a bit of watercolour. I was originally doing this just to create a little bit of shadowing behind her, but then I thought it looked a bit like she was submerged in water, or part of her was submerged in water and part of her was above the surface. So I kind of went with that and took the colour over her tummy there, and then added these sort of like white lines and dots to create the wave surface. And I just thought her peeking out above the surface of the water is just cute. I'm really fortunate where we live. We get to see dolphins quite regularly, and it is really magical seeing them come up to the surface and leaping about. So yeah, it's just what spoke to me in the moment. So once I get all of this and make it look like a lovely wave, I wanted to kind of confirm this concept, so end up just drawing some random greenery at the bottom to represent like the seaweed and various different types of green. You do not need to be an artist to do this. It's literally scribbles, and I scribble a little bit of corally colour and a little bit of pink, and it just to create a little bit of a seabed. This is not the main feature. The main feature is the dolphin, but it just adds to the story. To make the sky a bit more contrast to the sea, I knock it back with a little bit of gesso and then add some little fluffy clouds using my acrylic markers. And at this point, it was looking really lovely. I'm just going to take a moment and enjoy the page as it is now because I know I'm about to destroy it. I'm about to take it one step too far, not use my brain, and then spend a long time trying to fix it. But I will share my struggles with you. So at this point, it's looking lovely. Look at that. It's really nice. And then I decide, like an idiot, to add some yellow for the sun. But of course, I am aware of colour theory. I understand how colour theory works. Yellow and blue makes green. So we end up with a hideous green sky. Then to try and save the green, I add pink. Why? I just, honestly, I'm looking at this wondering what on earth my brain was doing. Then I'm panicking about the yellow, so add more blue, which of course makes it more green. I mean, honestly, I don't understand what I was doing. I don't I don't understand why my brain took me there. It's basic. So anyway, in a mad panic, we try and remove as much as we can by adding water and taking it off with the rag. We add loads of gesso. I actually at this point sort of walked away and left it for the night and came back in the morning, added more gesso and then tried to draw in the clouds again. I think I've knocked back quite a bit of the mess, but it's not as pretty as it was before. But you know, you live and learn. And I learned something I already knew, so that was valuable. So we add a border and we add the sentiment, and it got there in the end. So if it's not right, it's not the end. Anyway, this is the page. It's all done in the end. It looks okay. We can forget the disaster because we have a pretty page, and it says dream higher than the sky and deeper than the ocean. So the next page we are doing is in a happy planner. I love a happy planner. What I quite like about the happy planners is there's kind of a lot of designer paper already in there, which is quite cute. You can see that I've done a few pages on these sort of designery paper things. What I really love about the happy planner is you can take the pages out of the planner and work on them separately and then add them back in, which is what we have done in this instance. Also, the other thing, I've not done it yet, but we should definitely do it this year, is because it's a happy planner, you can add things in as well. So we could maybe do some pages on some like corrugated card. We just need to put the little ring notches in and it would go into our happy planner. So it has the potential to become a really interesting mixed media-y kind of journal with lots of interesting things going on. So I just put some clear gesso over everything to give it a tooth, add a little bit of white gesso for interest. We've done a little bit of stamping, and now for some reason I'm drawing squiggly pink bumps. I think I've been watching lots of abstract art on YouTube recently, and so I was just feeling the random bumps. I don't really know what else to call these. Yeah, so we painted those in with acrylic markers, and I've got a few extra bits and bobs from the bit box, and I'm just layering up all these different papers into a little stack. I actually think it looks quite cute. I quite like the way it worked out. We're just emphasizing the little bumps now with black. And then I pulled out this little topper. This again is from the Curious Wonders collection, and it's from the same collection of the one that we used on the tiny little journal. So we're just adding that now and then building up around it with these extra bits of paper and grinding it. I have a thing for grinding. I think we have I think we've established that. I did want to make the topper look more like it was part of the picture. So I pulled out my acrylic marker and I just drew the remainder of the cloud onto the main page. And I also took the acrylic marker onto the topper as well, so that we had a blend of colours. There wasn't a sharp contrast between the topper and the paper. And I think it looks quite cute. I'm quite pleased with how that actually turned out. So that was good. And then I also used the pink pen to draw these sort of like random heart flowers. They look a bit strange at the minute, but we will end up fixing that with black pen. I'm doing another doodly border because it's me, and I'm also showing you my hair. Don't know why, but you know, felt the need to show I did edit this quite considerably so that you didn't see my head, but I couldn't rescue it completely. We then go around and add some doodles to the bits and pieces that we put down, and I think this is where it all starts coming together. I also do these sort of like little stitching details on the different layers of paper, and I love that. I think it makes it all look like it's together and as one, and yeah, as part of the page, like it's kind of really sunk into the page. And then another doodly border around the edge. I was really liking this, but I did find it at this stage it was just a little bit busy on the eye. I think because we have used a diary page, there's a lot of detail So we still have all that diary detail in the back. And although I love the page, I just felt it was a little bit too much. So I'm contemplating this as I am adding more doodles. Doodles seems to be where my brain starts working. You know, I just sort of get into flow with that and then process what's happening. So I am at this point processing the background and then bring out gesso. See, gesso fix everything. Gesso fixed the horrific mess that we made earlier, and now we're just helping to knock back that calendar page a little bit. So we're just looking at a little bit less detail. Now the design goes from top right to bottom left. It's much easier on the eye, and I think it looks far more effective. Finally, we add the words dream, inspire, create, and pop that back into our planner. And there we go. That is another page that we have just done in an old planner. I've really had the desire to make a gorgeous mixed media journal. Now, hopefully what we've established in this video is the first 3 pages, we've literally just taken a planner, glued a few pages together and created on it. So you don't need to do anything fancy if you don't want to. However, if you do want to be a bit extra like I was, we can just make an entire journal. So I am using the sort of backing board of the journal, and also I was feeling fabric. I don't know why, you don't need fabric, you could do this with paper as well, and I wanted this really textured, gorgeous, colourful, messy cover. So I've sort of stitched some bits of fabric together. These things that I'm stitching on now are just random strips of overlock cuttings. I made myself a skirt out of a duvet a few years ago, and this was like the overlock trimmings, and I'm just stitching them on top with a zigzag stitch, so it's really textured. And I also put this leaf ribbon on it as well, and I absolutely love it. It is so good. Look at that, I just love it. So then I get gel medium. Gel medium is a brilliant product to use. It literally sticks anything to anything, so it's going to stick the fabric absolutely fine. You do get fabric specific glues, but a gel medium will work. And the thing about gel medium is that it has an element of flex to it, so it will expand and contract as things become, you know, damp and dry, which any sort of porous based product will. That's why you have an allowance on your doors and things like that, because things expand and contract. And it's the same with paper and card. So yeah, the glue will do that, and that's why things don't ping off as they do with hot glue. Anyway, we're just gluing this down. I did go through quite a lot, but I wanted to make sure it was really secure. So I've got the glue underneath and over when it comes to this overlap section here, but dead easy and absolutely adore it. Oh. I then get some grey board and chop it down to add into the inserts. I happen to inherit a whole load of grey boards, but again, you don't need to run out and get it. I tend to find I save the backs of my sketchbooks, and that works. I also, to be really extra, decided to stitch a whole load of those little overlock scraps together with ribbon, because again, I wanted something really textury. I did have ribbon, but I didn't want that. I wanted it to be messy and textured. So I created my own sort of fibrous binding, and that is going to be our covers. So I put those under books and left them overnight, and now I'm pulling out some of the signatures from the actual planner. I'm taking some watercolor paper. Oh no, this is mixed media paper. So I'm taking some mixed media paper out of a book. I also have some of these mop-up pages from other projects that have been saved away. And that is a thing from my wet palette. And then I sort of organise my signatures so that every signature has some planner paper, some mixed media paper, some sort of novelty paper, whether it's tea dyed paper or music paper, and kind of bundle them together into a way that it feels that I'm happy with it. Then finally I get these kind of bulldog clips and clip them all together. Last time I made a journal, when I made my sidekick journal, I failed to do this bit. This bit is quite essential because it holds the pages in place. So remember this bit, otherwise you could end up with a wonky signature, which I've done, and it just adds to the character. But on this occasion I wanted a bit more neat. I tend to have a lot of embroidery thread in my stash because I used to do a lot of cross stitch. So rather than go out and buy fancy wax thread, which you're supposed to use, I just pull my embroidery thread along a candle and it does the same thing. And then I stitch that in and tie it off. I do that with all 5 signatures, and then it will be time to sort of jazz them up and stick them together. So I've taken some more fabric. So this is the fabric that was on the front cover as well. And what I'm doing is just cutting 5 little thin strips because the spine of this journal is going to be on display. So I'm just folding that fabric around each of the signatures and again just sticking that down with a little bit of glue. They all dried overnight as well, and now I'm using my gel medium and sticking each of the signatures together. This, I have to get my head in here because this does need to be quite precise. I need to stick it corner to corner and make sure that it's really flat and even so that all the book sits together really nicely. So we do that with all 5 signatures until we have this gorgeous kind of bundle of books with this lovely yellow spine. It's so pretty, look at it, it's so nice. So again, that's all left to dry for 24 hours. There was lots of drying in this, but it was well worth it. And then finally we get some more gel medium. I went through a lot of gel medium for this. I actually need to restock now. And we glue the covers to the signatures of the book. And then once again, I leave that under a pile of books overnight to dry to make sure that it is very, very secure by the time that we actually start art journaling in it. And oh my goodness, I love it. I love it so much. It's so gorgeous. So we're just going to do a very quick flip through of what it kind of looks like. We've got gorgeous mix of papers, lots of potential here. I genuinely cannot wait to start playing in this journal. It's just, oh, I'm so excited. So excited. So we will end up just doing a 1 page together just now. I'm just going to use this front page that's a bit of a mop-up page and add a little bit of stamped detail. And then some more stamped detail and just keep it really simple. So I've added some background stamps and I've got these gorgeous dragonfly ones and I'm just going to kind of block colour these in using a paint pen. So these are my shuttle art markers. I love my shuttle art markers. They were in my top 5 for my products in 2025 and they were also my top acrylic marker when I did an acrylic marker review. They are just gorgeous. They're a budget brand, but do you know what? I think they're brilliant. So we can add that. I added a bit more of the kind of yellow as well to sort of tie in that patch of greeny blue that we had at the top, and then add lots of black doodles to bring it all together. Also going to add some white doodles there as well, and that is that page all done. So I've had lots of fun. I hope that you have maybe felt inspired and feel that you can just pull out any book that you have in your stash and get creating.
If you have made it to this stage in the video, wow, thank you so much. I realise it has been a little bit of a long one, but I hope you have had fun. I am in love with this journal. I am so excited. I honestly think this is the nicest journal that I have ever made, and I really cannot wait to keep using it throughout 2026. I can see this becoming a favourite, so if you want to see more pages in this, please do stay tuned and consider hitting that subscribe button. I hope you have seen that you can have fun whatever art supplies you have. If you're thinking about art journaling, you don't need all this stuff, you don't need expensive art supplies. Any old book that you've got lying around, I've used an old planner because I had it to hand, but an old book, old composition book, anything like that, and a few basic supplies, and you can have fun. So thank you so much for joining me. I will be back again next Friday and I look forward to seeing you then. Bye.